All right, welcome to the Maize and Blue Review Spring Game Draft. We are obviously the only people that have thought of this idea. No one else has done this. So, so everybody's super excited to see this for the first time. No, really cool idea. We're excited to do it. I think it's just a great opportunity to talk about this roster, the guys we're excited about, and share some of the intel we've been sharing all spring over at michigan.rivals.com. So if you've been following, you've been keeping up with a lot of the chatter we've been hearing. If not, hopefully you learned some new stuff tonight. So I'm going to upload the draft board in a moment here, but obviously we are going to have comments live. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. Feel free to have conversations in the comments, interject with us. We'll pull up what we can and try and interact. But otherwise, generally, rules are going to be we're trying to draft 22-man rosters. The only players we decided to have off limits on this one, number one, was J.J. McCarthy, just because the gap between him and the rest of the quarterbacks is too significant. So this will be a more level playing field. And then Blake Corum and Edwards, I've obviously been dinged up a little bit and didn't make sense to remove Corum, but not Edwards. And we don't want to get into the weeds with any of the injury stuff. When we draft guys, we might talk about a couple dudes that have been dinged up, but we're not looking to take anybody that's had any injuries off the board, right? So, all right, with that being said, let me go ahead and see if I can get this draft board up here. Boom. All right, let me get this out of the way. Sweet. All right, so it is beautiful, and this is what happens when I have too much time on my hands, right? So Josh has graciously given me the first overall pick. We are going to do a snake style draft. I'm hoping with this draft board that we can keep track of where we're at and not lose our way. So as you can see, like I said, we're going to do full 22-man, so 11-man offense, 11-man defense. The only real variable that I have in there is I did just do 5 offensive linemen. I think if we try to do, tackles, guards, and center, that would probably be ideal, but we're just going to get our 5 best offensive linemen. And then 2 corners, 2 safeties, and I did allow a defensive back. So if somebody wants to go with 3 safeties or 3 corners, you have that flexibility because it's a really versatile defense, right? So it wouldn't be weird to do that. All right, so out the gate, number 1 overall pick. I want to draft somebody who's one of the better players on the team and somebody I think gives me an advantage in terms of the gap between the number 1 and the number 2 player. I think that pick is obvious, and I'm going with Will Johnson, cornerback. So Will obviously started the year as CB4 last year, arguably finished the year as CB1. Is this not enough? What is alphabetical order? Perfect. He is definitely CB1 heading into this season, arguably one of the best corners in the country. So, Josh, you want to talk a little bit about, I know some people have seen Will was dinged up a little bit in camp, but where that stands right now.
Yeah, from what we've been told, it's just basically, he's banged up. He's been limited in spring, and he won't. I would be stunned if he was playing on Saturday for the spring game. But even Minner said, Jesse Minner said after his press conference yesterday, that he'll be ready for fall camp, and that's been the expectation that he's going to be he's going to be ready. He just kind of just banged up, but he'll be.
And they're obviously cautious. This is spring practice, right?
So right, that too, and the abundance of caution. The best recipe just to give the guy some rest.
And honestly, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but part of what gave Will Johnson such an advantage last year was other corners being injured last spring, right? So maybe with some question marks at CB2 and Will not being out there, these guys are getting extra reps. That might not be a bad thing, right? So, all right, Josh, you've got picks 2 and 3, sir. The board is yours.
All right. Well, I'm gonna be a jerk here, and I'm gonna start up the middle for both. Defense. I'm going to pick 2 guys that have stuck out on the defensive line, both at defensive tackle. I'm going to take both of them. I'm going to go Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant to start off.
Okay. All right.
I know I'm being greedy here. But
that is
I think
an
Mason Graham,
excellent strategy. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, I
All
think
right.
Mason Graham has had a fantastic spring from what we've been told. Obviously, Kenneth Grant is in line to take a big step. I mean, there's playing time available now with Mozzie Smith no longer being there, and then these guys are going to be keying in on Mason Graham when they play against Michigan. So there's going to be opportunities to kind of sneak inside, and the defensive line has said that they would like to kind of increase their pass rush and their pressure. So I think a lot of that starts with Kenneth Grant, and obviously Mason Graham is going to be kind of the linchpin. But there is one more guy that's on the board still from the defensive tackle spot that's a total freak, which I'm sure you're going to scoop up here pretty quickly. But
well, now I don't have to. You don't have any more defensive tackle spots, so I can wait on
right,
him. But...
exactly.
No, I mean, the coaches said it doesn't
ahead.
matter, but Kenneth Grant was the first choice of the
Yeah.
spring game draft that the Michigan coaches actually had. That's just a giant shout out to the spring he's had, right? So, yeah, no, like you said, no Mozzie Smith. Mozzie played a lot of snaps last year, so I'm interested to see how they rotate those guys. I think that's two really good picks, and it gives you a huge advantage up the middle. So,
quick shout out to Brock too. He said Chris Jenkins.
I don't know if you can.
There's a method to my madness. Don't
worry.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can go wrong either way there. So not bad. All right. Well, I think it's time to head over to the offensive side of the ball. And in the same vein, I'm thinking of somebody who's one of the best players on the team and maybe gives me a little bit of an advantage. So I'm going to go with my right guard, Zach Zinter. I'm still, I don't want to say shocked, because we heard the quotes about unfinished business, and we know what the one more year NIL deal was, but Zinter was a second round pick this year, right? Getting him back is like adding fully developed 5-star talent, man. Just a massive thing for Michigan to have him coming back. He'll be one of the best offensive linemen in the country this year for sure. So I'm going to go with him. And then, I am really torn on this. You've messed up my head here a little bit with this double defensive tackle thing. So sticking with my strategy, one of the best players, somebody I think gives me advantage. I'm going to go back to the secondary. Give me safety, Rod Moore.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
I think he's kind of in line here with Will, where he might be the best all-around player at his position, definitely in the Big Ten, right? And we've been talking about this CB2 role and what they're going to do with that. I've kind of been saying this spring, don't be shocked if Rod Moore gets into a little bit more of a Dax Hill type role this year, and you see him in a lot more coverage snaps, and they take advantage of his versatility. But I think I've got the two best players in the secondary on my team. I've got the best offensive lineman. I'm feeling pretty good.
All right. So that leaves me, I get 2 picks, right? Or no?
Yeah, at this point, it's just gonna be 2 picks in a row because we're snaking.
Okay.
So
yeah. All right. So I'm gonna stick with my defensive line. I'm gonna round this out. I'm gonna go Josiah Stewart on the edge. I'm beefing up my edge. I'll play.
Taken him.
I'll have my defensive line set. Everyone else can just play around those guys. It's totally
great.
Josiah Stewart, obviously a big time addition from the portal. He's a guy that we've heard some good things about. The players have said that he's a freak, and just really have heard some really good things about him. And he's a bit on the smaller size for the edge, but he's mentioned multiple times that his smaller size has been an advantage for him. So I'm really curious to see how he kind of develops this year. And what 12, 13 sacks his freshman year. I mean,
13 and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta take competition into mind, but I mean that sort of production doesn't just happen. You got to have skills. So, I think he'll be a really interesting addition to the team this year, and who knows, may have a huge year. So,
great pick.
Yeah, that will my end. So my next pick, I'm going to go to offense, and I'm going to pick Colson Loveland at tight end. Obviously, a no-brainer pick. Should be a huge linchpin for the offense here this year. Him and JJ, had a really good connection towards the end of the year. A lot of these guys you hear when they're true freshmen. I mean, the Will Johnsons of the world, Colson Loveland. I'm blanking right now, but a lot of these guys, have those upward trajectories where they kind of start off really slow, and then towards the end of the year they really start to figure it out. And that was doubly true with Colson Loveland and Will Johnson. Both of those guys really ascended towards the end of the year. So I think Colson Loveland will be a huge part of the offense, and I think he would be a no-brainer pick for any offense, really.
It was him or Rodmore. I was torn. I just did an article about Loveland talking about, we hyped him quite a bit last year, just as a guy that we thought would get on the field and maybe make some contributions, but he was one of the most important parts of the offense in the last few games of the year, right? So obviously the all injury and the Schoonmaker injury kind of forced him to have to progress quicker, and he did. So, I mean, I think we might be guilty of underhyping him again. He's going to be an absolute weapon. The dude's a wide receiver trapped in a tight end's body. So as long as he can keep up from a blocking standpoint, then I think you're 100% right. Okay. Oh, I didn't think I was going to have to think about what you're doing. You're really forcing my hand here. So, okay. I got to go with an edge player, because if I don't get a defensive lineman here quick, I'm going to be in trouble. So I'm going to go with the guy that on the opposite side has the best chance, in my opinion, to rival what Aiden Hutchinson was able to do, because he's damn near his clone. I'm going to go with Braden McGregor. I think McGregor's ability to potentially command double teams, impact the run game, get to the quarterback is what's going to make it a lot easier for Josiah Stewart to have a big year, very similar to how Hutchinson and Ojabo kind of fed off of each other. So I like McGregor at the other edge spot. I don't know why I can't think of how the alphabet works today, but there we go. We've been hearing good things about him this camp as well, right?
Yeah. No, he, again, it's huge having him healthy. I think that's been the catalyst for him. He's had a lingering shoulder issue going into Michigan, got that fixed. That kind of set him back a little bit. And then he had kind of further injuries during his time at Michigan. So that kind of, again, set him back a bit further. But this year, end of last year, started to figure it out. And, that he started turning into this, big time recruit, or turned into the player that we all thought he would be as a big time recruit coming into Michigan. Right. Looked really good. Athletic as heck, and was a pest in the backfield. And I think he's going to be, you're going to see more of that moving forward for sure.
Yeah, I mean, his senior high school injury has been well documented at this point. Like Jesse Minter said, he was stuck playing behind guys like Hutch and Morris. Yeah. And at this point, he played every game last year. He's healthy. His development's where it needs to be. It's his turn, man. I think he's going to have a big year. So, all right, at this point, I think I just got to beef up my strength to rival what your strength is. So I'm going to go back to the secondary again. And for my other corner spot, I'm going to take Mike Sainristil. The Sainristil obviously was a experiment last year, right? Converted wide receiver. Let's see if he can play nickel. We've got some depth concerns over there. And, look at him. Just, again, one of the best nickel players in the country. So I will be interested to see, kind of back when I was talking about Rodmore too. I think Sainristil could take some snaps outside. I think he could still play nickel. Obviously, he will play nickel. And I also think he might be able to drop back in safety. I think they're going to rotate a lot of these guys around very often, especially in the first few games, while a player like Moran Walker, who I'm sure we'll talk about in a moment here, while he's kind of getting his feet wet and getting comfortable with the corner position, I think you're going to see Sainristil and some other guys rotate quite a bit. So I feel good. I got Johnson, Rodmore, and Sainristil in my secondary.
Mm-hmm. Well, my next pick, I'm going to go linebacker. Junior Colson would be the obvious pick, but he's hurt and he's not going to play. So, I should say you shouldn't say I can still pick him.
Yeah. I don't want to take. That's what I said. I didn't want to get into the weeds with that.
Okay, well then,
So
yeah,
it's not necessarily like who we think is going to be the best literally on Saturday. We're just trying to build our best teams from the spring roster because there's some injuries we know about that we don't really want to get it. So yeah, you go Junior Colson if that's the guy you want to take.
Junior Colson. I'll take Junior Colson. Yeah, he had foot surgery recently, so he won't be playing.
Was this something he was just trying to play through and they've decided, you know what, let's just do the surgery?
Yep.
Okay.
It was something that he was trying to play through. And
that's your
he just figured it would be best to get it done and not risk further injury.
The same thing. Minter said he's going to be good to go.
And he's going to be good. So
hey, led the team in tackles the last 2 years, and you're getting him with the 10th pick. Nothing wrong with that.
Yep. Okay, so my next pick, I should probably dress the offense here. I'm going to go Trevor Keegan with my offensive line.
Do you want me to put him at left guard?
Yeah, sure. Why not? There's just
we'll figure it out.
He's good enough to play anywhere. He's another guy that I don't think you'll see play Saturday. Maybe he had a concussion during spring ball, and they've been really cautious with him. Out of just because they can. So
freak situation, head off the turf. Yeah.
It was a freak thing, and he's been banged up, so I don't know if you'll see him. But I mean, obviously having that stalwart added to the offensive line is crucial.
Keegan and Zinter are neck and neck, right? Both been a part of the Joe Moore Award teams the last 2 seasons, right? Keegan dealt with some injuries last year, and you could tell he got frustrated with some of his consistency. But guys that know football, he got all big honors, right? So I think if he can stay healthy, he's right there with Zinter. Having those two guys, again, third-year starters at guard, some of the best in the conference. Yeah, you can't go wrong there, right? So, okay. Yeah, I'm flustered here, man. I don't know why. I thought you were gonna do some crazy stuff and make this easy on me. I'm really impressed with your strategy so far. So I got to address offense as well here. I have no weapons. You got Colston, Loveland. This might surprise some people, and I don't think it should, but I'm gonna go with Cornelius Johnson. I just did a stat article recently because I've just been looking at a tons of numbers, right, and just trying to find weird things. Cornelius Johnson has not only been one of the top 2 in receiving the last 3 seasons, he's also had one of the 2 longest touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. So I think we forget like how consistent Cornelius can be, how much of a deep threat he can be. I mean, we saw it against Ohio State, right? And we'll probably talk about this more when we start picking some other wide receivers, but I think they're going to use him a little bit differently this year now that Ronnie Bell's gone. And I think he's going to be in a more flexible type role. And we're going to get to see more of what makes Cornelius Johnson good. Does he have the highest ceiling of the receivers on this team? No, but he's got a good low floor. He's a good, consistent Big Ten receiver. So with that being said, I'm going to pair him with somebody who I think has the highest ceiling at wide receiver. And I'm going to go with Darius Clemens. So Clemens was the star of last year's spring game, right? And then we didn't see a ton of him during the season. I think it's going to be interesting. It's really a battle between him and another sophomore receiver we'll probably talk about soon as well. But I like the idea of Clemens being able to take that X spot away from Johnson, being the big-time outside receiver on the strong side while Johnson can play next to the slot and maybe get a little bit more flexible. So I think I've got the safest pick at wide receiver, and I think I've got a guy that is going to be battling for that wide receiver 3 spot, but by the end of the year could be wide receiver 1 for this team.
Okay.
Now, he was dinged up a little bit too, but I saw he was in a recent practice photo. You think he's playing Saturday?
Yeah, he should play.
Okay. I know people want to see him, obviously.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think I don't know for sure, but I don't if he's practicing, I don't see why he wouldn't unless something
100%.
happens. So okay. So I'm gonna stick with the offense and I'm gonna beef up the trenches a little bit. Obviously the center position is a big time discussion piece, who's going to replace Olu. And Michigan went to the portal to address that issue and got Drake Nugent. And that's going to be my pick on the offensive line, adding Drake Nugent. I think he's going to be the starter. I mean, Michigan has some options there. Reese Atterbury, Raheem Anderson's there as well.
Yep.
I think, Michigan is in a good spot, or Greg Crippen too. I don't want to leave him out. That Michigan is in a good spot from a developmental standpoint where, if you can obviously keep these guys happy in this day and age of NIL and all that, and the transfer portal and all that stuff. If you can keep guys happy and you can have Olu come in and a Drake Nugent come in and kind of allow these guys to develop a little bit and learn, that'll only bode well for the future. So, but here and now, I think Drake Nugent's going to be the guy come fall. Pro Football Focus loves him.
Yes, they do.
Love him. They think he's one of the best centers in the country. And, time will tell if that turns out to be true. But, again, you add that experienced guy in the portal and, you only challenge your centers that you have get better. So, competition's always a good thing. So, and for my next pick, I am going to go and address my corners, and I'm going to pick Amorion Walker.
Nice.
I think, again, we've heard a lot of good things about him and his athleticism. The Michigan coaching staff really like the pairing of Amorion Walker and Will Johnson together. They think that they could be, an all-time combo. I mean, you've got two lengthy guys, and they love their lengthy corners. I mean, Amorion Walker's 6'4".
Yep.
That's huge for a corner, but he doesn't play like he's 6'4", 6'3". So that I'm really curious to see how that translates. And I think you could, and Jesse Minter hinted at this week that you could see kind of a similar trajectory for Amorion Walker to Will Johnson, where, you allow him to play, you give him the opportunity to play, kind of play through some mistakes,
yep.
Be patient with him, and then you'll start to see it pay dividends. It'll just click. And I think that's going to happen with Amorion. And, best case scenario, especially him being CB2 and the discussion behind that is that he comes in right away and just performs great. I mean, that would be best case scenario, but I don't know if it's going to happen that way. But, I think Walker's in line for an interesting year. He's definitely someone I've got an eye on for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's an absolute freak, right? Like his speed, his vertical, his length. He obviously could have been an excellent deep ball wide receiver. The corner thing's not a shock. This isn't a desperation move, right? Like even when he was being recruited, I think Alabama liked him at corner after he was at their camp even. So yeah, we'll see how quick he picks up. But when it comes to Harbaugh and changing guys' position, he's got a pretty good track record. So, yep. And if he's coming out and name dropping Walker right out the bat at spring practice, he's a guy obviously to be excited about. That's for sure.
Yep.
All right. So I think I'm going to go back to offensive line here, and a guy that maybe I was a little harder on than I needed to be last year. But going back and looking at things, and obviously the way spring has been going so far, arguably the favorite to start at left tackle right now, I'm going with Carson Barnhart. Barnhart has also been a part of this Joe Moore Award team both years as a sixth lineman kind of contributor. He played different spots last year before eventually taking over at right tackle. Right now, the guy that I had as the favorite there was another transfer who we're not going to have in this draft, and that's Ladarius Henderson coming over from Arizona State. He's not a part of the team right now, and Barnhart's been taking advantage. I don't know if he'll end up winning that left tackle job, kind of in the same vein you were talking about with Nugent. You got Crippen, you got Anderson. All these guys are fighting. And whenever they ask these offensive linemen about it, they're like, we knew what we were getting into. Like, if you don't like competition, you don't come to Michigan. None of them are upset or feel like they've been jumped over at all, right? They're thriving in this competition. So I don't know if he'll end up being the starting left tackle. We'll see if Henderson pushes him, or even, some other guys there. He might end up back at right tackle. I don't know. But if we're talking about 5 best offensive linemen on the team right now, one of them is Carson. So we'll go there. And then I'm going to take a linebacker as well, since you've already got Junior Colson. And I'm torn because I kind of like all these linebackers they've got right now. But I'm going to go I'm gonna go ceiling with this pick, and I'm gonna take another transfer. I'm gonna go Ernest Hausman.
That's a good pick.
Transfer from Nebraska. So I come back to it. I'm gonna be real interested to see scheme wise, how they use these guys, right? So last year, you had basically Colson and Barrett, and that's all you had in the middle, those two guys. Now you've got a lot more depth. You've got some versatility, guys that can play. Mike, Will. Now they're going to be arguing, how do we get enough snaps for all of these guys, right? But I think Hausman, especially as they're trying to find new ways of getting pass rush. You talked about that with your 2 defensive tackle picks. I don't think that Minter wants to blitz as much as he did last year. He said as much. But I think if he's sending a guy, that guy might be Ernest Hausman, and he's a tackle for loss machine. So that's going to be my first pick at linebacker. And then I got to get caught up here, but it's your turn, sir.
I can't believe Chris Jenkins is still on the board. I almost want to just gift him to you at this point.
You have to. You already picked 2 defensive tackles.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, you can wait. That's a good strategy.
He could be my last pick. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. We just probably would get laughed at going, what the hell are you doing? You picking Chris Jenkins last.
I mean, I guess technically if you wanted to play him at edge, you could. He's taken snaps out there before.
That's true. But there's another guy I like there more.
Mm-hmm.
And, speaking of which, I'm going to take him right now.
Right.
Jalen Harrell at edge.
Nice.
I will take him. He's kind of an interesting guy. He's kind of a tweener. You can put him at edge, or you can put him at linebacker. And I know he's been taking snaps at linebacker, so that only adds to the depth of that group. And all of a sudden, it's all of a sudden it's like, wow, you've got so much depth at linebacker that you never really had before. So
it's crazy, yeah. What a difference a year makes, man.
I'm really curious to see how Jalen Harrell is going to develop this year. I think he could have a massive, massive year. And I mean, what more can you say about the guy? I mean, the guy's got potential through the roof. You just got to kind of see it, come to fruition this year, and he's going to have plenty of opportunities to do it. So, that's going to do it for my pick. Now I'm going to go with my next one, and I'm going to go here. I think Ottawa Trader here. I'm going to pull up his comment. I grabbed Wilson immediately. Yes, sir. Roman Wilson at wide receiver.
Oh,
my pick.
I would have had I would have had a monster trio. I should have thought of that.
Yeah. I had to address wide receiver at some point here, and I think Roman Wilson's the perfect start. What more can you say about the guy heading into his last season, which is hard to believe. His last really season. Hard. Yeah, I mean, maybe NCAA hands out eligibility years like candy these days. Maybe he'll come back for a 5th year or whatever. But he is a burner. He's a guy that JJ really utilized towards the end of the year. I mean, we're not going to talk about that recalled back touchdown against TCU, which we all think is crap. But we talk about the deep pass. Can Michigan develop the deep ball? I think JJ and Roman Wilson are one of those guys that can really take that to the next step, just because Roman's just his ability to separate. It could be the intermediate route, getting away, quick twitch route, getting away from his defender or just burning him deep. He's kind of a multifaceted guy, and you could technically use him as a kick returner too. So a guy that can do a lot of things for you, a dependable guy. At this point in his career, what can he do next? I think he just needs to stay healthy. I think that's the big thing for him.
That's it.
He's had multiple years where he's had really hot starts, really good starts. He had a great game against Hawaii, and then all of a sudden mid-season he gets hurt and you don't really see him much, and then he's kind of slow to get back, and that really kind of hinders him because he could have had a big, big year. But it's unfortunate, but maybe this year is going to be the big year for him. But
he's got wide receiver 1 potential for sure, and there is a lot of targets to go around with Ronnie Bell no longer on the team. So all right, I think I wasn't sure I wanted to do this, but again, I'm going to hammer a strength here. since you've realized you have to draft wide receivers, I'm going to take the only guy I think is going to push him this year at the slot, the other sophomore that I think is going to be competing with Clemens, and I'm going Tyler Morris.
That's a good pick.
Morris arguably had a better, I mean, I don't want to say better year because neither one really played a ton, but I think we thought we were going to see a lot of Clemens last year and maybe Morris would get on the field late, but he had a big grab against, was that, no, I can't remember, Rutgers? I think he had a big catch. Anyway,
Illinois.
I don't remember which player. Was it Illinois? Either way, I like him a lot, and I think he's going to take a big sophomore leap. And like I said, right now, I think we've got the clear top 4 receivers on there right now, and it's going to be interesting to see again if Michigan thinks Morris at the slot is a guy they can keep there and play a ton. Roman played on the outside a lot in 21 when Bell was gone, right? So Morris and Clemens kind of fighting for reps and role. That's going to be something really interesting to watch. Especially at the start of the year, because I think they're going to kind of feel out. I guess that's a way to put it, feel out some situations and see what guy really shines through. Because either one of those dudes could be wide receiver 3, and then eventually in terms of stats, wide receiver 1. So, and then I'm going to go back to offensive line. You took Trevor Keegan. That's my dude. We literally have the same name. I'm going to go with the guy that filled in a lot for him last year and played, according to Pro Football Focus, damn near equal. And I'm going to go with Giovanni El-Hadi.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
I think if Keegan or Zinter didn't come back, there's no doubt El-Hadi is starting, and Michigan has no concern with that whatsoever.
No,
he was really impressive when he filled in last year. The dude just looks the part. I hate using that phrase, but some guys just look the part, and El-Hadi looks the part. So, yep. So Harbaugh likes to throw that starter phrase around a lot because in his mind, if a guy is capable of being a starter, and the only reason he's not is because there's too many dudes, he's still going to call him a starter. There's about 7 or 8 starters on the offensive line right now, and El-Hadi is one of them. So you got to you want Keegan and Zinter healthy all year. That's the goal, but you got to knowing you have El-Hadi in your pocket.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so that brings me to my selection here. I'm going to stick with the theme of the offensive line. I'm going to go Trente Jones, and I'm going to do that at probably put him at right tackle. Yep. I think because he's going to be. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts still on the offensive line. It's a lot to be figured out. So
I like his athleticism on the right side, especially when you think about how much JJ likes running that direction. Yep. So he was actually getting better every single week. He was starting to really ascend before that injury last year.
Yeah, no, that injury was really unfortunate for him. That really set him back. But at the same time, I mean, you can make the argument that it did allow Carson Barnhart to emerge and play the way he did. I mean, he sees that opportunity, and I don't think he's going to give it up. So, and I think looking at my board here, I mean, there's a lot of things a lot of spots that I can go.
Yeah, it's getting tricky now.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go safety here, and I'm going to pick Makari Page.
That's the right move.
A guy that came on and had a really great year, really good year. Someone that kind of struggled to find a spot, find a place under Mike McDonald / Jesse Minter's defense. And then now last year was the year he really came on and figured it out. I think that's just what he needed. He needed just some just baseline consistency and to finally just, to make it click. And, I think that last year was a huge year for him confidence wise. And I think he's going to have an even bigger role this year. So, I'm expecting big things from Makari Page this year.
He's one of my favorite stories on this team. We talk about overcoming adversity all the time. I'm going to go a little bit further back than what you just did. He was thrown to the wolves in 2020 under Don Brown.
Fair.
And
that's true.
And had a very difficult freshman year. And that could have broke him. He could have transferred. He comes back in 21, and now he's not even seeing the field at all. For him to come back and become such a solid player in the safety spot, basically taking Moten's job. And again, another you were talking about with Walker and Sanders, Johnson, excuse me, another tall, big guy in the secondary. Yeah, he was one of my favorite players last year. So I like that pick a lot. All right. I'm really torn here. Okay. I am going to go safety as well. And only because this one might be a little bit of a shock too. But I know you love this dude. It's probably a little early, but I don't want you to get him. I'm going Keon Sapp.
Yes.
He's another one of those guys that if there was a more obvious path to the field, he'd be starting this year and they'd have no problem with it. Awesome guy that can do free safety work, coverage, physical guy, come up in the box, blitz after the quarterback, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He is perfect for this defense. So I hope he finds a way to be the third safety or be a serious part of the rotations this year, because I think he's an absolute stud. I know you're the president of his fan club, but I do. But yeah, I'm going to go with him. I love my secondary. And I'm torn on this one, but I got to go running back here. And I'm going to take CJ Stokes.
Yeah, I was waiting. I was waiting.
I think we both were, and I can't wait any longer. So, Stokes had such an interesting year because right out the gate, Harbaugh says he's RB3, and we're like, oh, wow, great for him, And those first 3 non-conference games, he's matching Corum and Edwards with yards per carry, good, speedy, physical runs. And then obviously he has that fumble against Maryland, gets put in the doghouse a little bit. It's uncharacteristic for him. He's not a guy that fumbled a lot in high school. This wasn't, Mike Hart being cruel to him. He'll tell you he's glad that fumble happened. It was a really good learning experience for him. I think he had a better freshman year. It was up and down like most freshman years are. I think he had a better freshman year than people realize. And I think he's going to be really, really good this year. And I think Michigan's going to be looking to give him maybe 5 or 10 carries a game so that Blake Corum's not getting 30, right?
Yeah, right.
It'd be nice to have, Michigan used to rotate 4 or 5 guys back in the running back room, right? When you've got Corum and Edwards, you want to get them the rock as much as possible. But if Stokes can go out there and give them some meaningful snaps and they can keep those other 2 guys healthy, because that's been the biggest problem, is just having Corum and Edwards healthy at the same time, right? I like Stokes. I think he's going to have a big year. The kid's got a great head on his shoulders. Michigan fans have loved him since he committed. Big year for him, in my opinion.
Yep. All right. This is where I go and go a little bit off the beaten path here. I'm going to go cornerback, and I'm going to go Cameron Calhoun. I think that kid is going to be a stud. Maybe not this year. Who knows? But I think he is going to be a stud. Getting him in as an early enrollee was huge. A perfect fit, just a great fit culture-wise too. It's just a good kid, from a good family, just a good kid and perfect fit for the culture at Michigan. And just his skill set, perfect fit, a long, lengthy DB to go with the Marion Walker with my team. I've got high hopes for Cameron Calhoun. I thought he was an awesome pickup towards the end of the cycle there. I think Klink did a good job picking him up, and I think he's going to do a good job developing him too. So only very high expectations. So, oh man, there's so many things I could go with here for this next pick. Give me Jeff Percy at left tackle. I love Percy. I think, he filled in that Rutgers game and acquitted himself very, very well.
He easily could start at left tackle this year. We don't need to sleep on it. He could be starting left tackle.
But I think he's got the capability to start. And again, that's just a credit to Sharon Moore and Michigan's development of linemen. You get a guy that goes out, you slot Percy and he hasn't seen a lick of quality football time, and he comes in and does really well. Same thing with Gio Ohadi. Hasn't seen a lick of quality football, comes in, does really well. I think at this point, when you're talking about the offensive line, you can really just kind of at this point pick and choose who you want, and I think you'd be okay because their development is just so good at Michigan. But yeah, give me Jeff Percy again, another guy who I think will have high hopes for sure.
Yeah, if he wins the starting job, left or right tackle, I wouldn't be shocked, without a doubt. And if this position wasn't, the offensive line wasn't so crazy deep, yeah, it would just be Percy's job handed to him, basically, right? Mm-hmm. So, all right, at this point, I think I just need to pick guys at spots that you still have open, because otherwise we're going to get to the point where we're just going back and forth with each other. So, what sticks out to me right away is linebacker. And I don't think you're going to be shocked by this. I am a complete fanboy for Michael Barrett. Again, kind of along the same lines of Makari Page, when you just talk about a guy that the adversity he's had to face, whether it was injuries, guys in front of him, the defense literally changing in his position, no longer existing anymore. And then he gets on the field as a starter after Nikhai Hill-Green's injuries last year, got picked on a little bit early in coverage. And the game I said, hey, if Barrett doesn't start showing something in coverage here, we might have issues. He just goes out and gets 2 interceptions, one of them a pick 6, right? So he could be a captain this year. I value his leadership that much, and he's one of those Michigan dudes, the story that Jim Harbaugh loves. Just hard worker, overcomes adversity, stud. And then I guess, I am torn with this one. I got to go with an extra DB here. And I don't know that this is even me creeping on your territory or not, but for my third DB, I'm going to go with Jaden McBurrows. I didn't know if you, okay, good. I was really optimistic about him last year, and that injury just couldn't come back from it quick enough. Reconnecting. What? That's weird. What's happening? Let's see here.
We're still live, so that's good. We're still going. We're still going strong.
It's not letting me pick from here. There we go. Okay. I think he's still, I know Harbaugh called Amorian Walker CB2. I think he's still absolutely in the battle there for the CB2 spot. Another guy, physical. I know he's dealt with some health issues, but when he's been out there, the dude hits, man. And again, just another versatile player. I'd love to see him, whether it's in a starting role or some type of rotational role, stay healthy and be able to contribute. He's been one of my favorite recruits. And like I said, going back to that injury last year, the year, but it was 21 was when the injury happened, the leg injury, and he just never bounced back from it. But I like him a lot.
All right. Let me see.
So the only spot, the only spot both of us still have open is quarterback, and then the spot on the offensive line, depending how we want to handle that. But
I'm going to go linebacker, a guy that played as a true freshman, Jimmy Rolder. I think he's going to take a big step. I think him seeing the field when he did, was it maybe more out of necessity just because they didn't have much depth there because of Nikhai Hill-Green, who was hurt? Maybe, but I still think he acquitted himself well. I mean, he had his moments, but he's a freshman. What do you expect? And I think another year in the system, now with more depth, more competition with Ernest Hausman's addition. I only think that's going to be beneficial for him moving forward. So, and I'm going to respond to a comment here. Victor Rodriguez posted, surprised Cam Calhoun was picked up before Jair Hill and Jaden McBurrows. Not so fast, my friend. My third is Jair Hill.
Oh, you're going young. All right.
Yeah, I am. I really like his skill set. And Michigan does too. The coaching staff really loves his potential. Maybe might not happen this year, but might not happen next year. But there's real potential there and real spot for growth. Outside of Will Johnson, so the opportunity is going to be there. Again, having him as an early enrollee is huge. So I think that's only going to be beneficial for him moving forward.
People like to pick on that recruiting class last year. I think it's going to be similar to 2018, where in a few years we look back and talk about just how underrated so many of these guys are. And Calhoun and Hill are going to be at the top of that list. They're going to be the starting corners at some point, and we're going to talk about, man, what great additions those two were. So I like the pick. All right, I've been saving quarterback because honestly, I kind of wanted to go rogue here, so I was just going to let you pick first. But I'm going to go ahead and grab him now. I'm taking Alex Orji.
Whoa!
Now, hear me out.
Whoa!
I know. That's what I was saying. I was just going to let you pick because then I was just going to take Orji, but screw it. I'll take him now.
It was not going to be my pick. No offense.
I know. No offense taken. It's got to be Tuttle or Warren. I think their commitment to having Alex Orji at quarterback is very interesting to me. The guy is an absolute physical beast. And since he's committed, it's been, well, let's put him at linebacker. Let's put him at running back. Let's put him at tight end. They're keeping him in that QB room. They are dedicated to his development. I want to see him throw the ball Saturday, but I just think adding him, I like the idea of running an offense where I can run my quarterback a lot. I think he can do enough throwing the ball with the wide receivers that I have. I like having him back there. Tuttle and Warren are obviously the two guys competing for the backup spot. I like the X factor of Alex Orji, so I'm going to take him at quarterback.
All right.
I
was not expecting that at all.
I don't know. That tops your Cam Calhoun pick, I think. But
yeah, it does. Absolutely. Wow.
And then, I guess I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to get my other edge off the board. Yeah, like I said, we're at the point now where we're kind of double dipping, not really fighting for spots anymore. And it's obvious it's Derek Moore.
Yeah. That's a good pick.
In a different format where we're not like competing with each other. Like I could wait on Moore till the very end. He's obviously higher up if in this draft. I think he's got potential to have a big year. Him and McGregor on the outside. I like Harrell. I like Stewart. I like all four of these guys. And I don't know if one of them is going to be the dude or if they're going to have a more committee approach, but Moore is one of my favorite just because he's close to like what Hutch and Morris were in terms of he's going to stand up on the edge. He can play a 4-3 defensive end. He can slide over and play defensive tackle because he's almost 300 pounds. Again, back to what we said before. He just looks the part, man. I like Derek Moore.
That's
You're still in shock about the Orji pick here. I can feel it.
I am. I'm shook. I am shook. Man. All right. Well, I mean, again, yeah, we're not really fighting over anything except offensive line. And I guess, and I'm going to go offensive line just so I can get that out of the way. I'm going to go Andrew Gentry.
Oh, that's a great pick.
I think he has a chance to be special.
I have him at tackle.
He is kind of he's a tweener. He has been playing guard just because of numbers. They're a little light heading into the spring game because of availability, but he's a guy just kind of a surprise pickup during the 2022 recruiting class. A guy that was obviously on his Mormon mission and came back, and now he's ready to play some ball. I mean, highly rated guy, almost a fringe 5-star guy. So I think he has a chance to be really special under Sharon Moore. So I'm going to take him as my offensive line, my last offensive lineman. Now, man, I guess I just got a run of the thing here. I'm going to go quarterback, and I'm going to pick Jack Tuttle. I think this team needs some leadership, and Tuttle has that quality. Obviously, a captain for Indiana, and just talking to the guy, he's just really, really impressive. Just an impressive dude. Not just for the fact of the selflessness of coming in and knowing that you're probably not going to see a whole lot of snaps, in your final year of eligibility here. I mean, you're coming in as a pure backup, but
does he only have 1 year? I thought he had 2.
He might have 2. I mean, I thought he was like a 6-year guy, but Who
It's so
knows?
tough. It's
Either
so
way,
tough with the COVID thing. Yeah.
I know the COVID thing screws up a lot of stuff, but yeah, I think Jack Tuttle brings the leadership, brings the experience to kind of round out this team, especially on offense.
I wish I knew if you had an extra year, because as much as they're competing for the backup job this year, I mean, we could be talking about the 2024 battle if JJ decides to leave, right? So it'd be
Yeah,
interesting. I like Warren. We've gone into his story a bunch. Obviously, great kid, great talent. But I think you're right. If it really came down to we needed somebody to start, or Michigan needed somebody to start a couple games and get through a tough part of the schedule, you like Tuttle's experience. You like his leadership. And he's a former top recruit as well. So nobody to sleep on there. All right, I got to go at this point. Again, we're not really fighting over any dudes. So I'm just going to go with who is the best player I can take. And that's Chris Jenkins.
yep.
I love your picks of Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, but Chris Jenkins could still be the best defensive tackle on this team.
Oh no, absolutely, 100%.
He is one of those guys that was labeled a tweener, took a little bit of time, had to develop, but he just committed to this process, and he's an absolute monster now. Another guy that can play nose tackle, 3-tech, 5-tech, stand up on the outside. I think he's going to have a monster year. He got overshadowed a little bit last year with the attention Maize Smith got, but if you look at the numbers, Jenkins had just as good of a year, and he's another guy Pro Football Focus is really excited about. So I'll go with him there. Yeah. And then you obviously took Colston Loveland, so I'm going to go with AJ Barner.
That's a good pick. Can't go wrong.
Great transfer addition, man.
Yep.
I think I
mean, when you talk about perfect fits, that's
exactly.
You look at AJ Barner staring you back in the face. I mean, that's just cultural, physical, obviously game experience. Just he's the total package of what Michigan is looking for at the tight end position. Excellent pickup.
And Michigan needs two, right? I like Bredesen in that H-back type role. I do still have high hopes for guys like Marlon Klein. But yeah, to go get somebody like Barner after you lose All and Schoonmaker, great pickup for Michigan in the portal.
Yep.
All right, sir. Rounding it out here.
Yeah. I'm going to go RJ Moten at safety.
Oh, duh. Yep.
Yeah.
I was so focused on taking your dude with Saab. So
yeah, I'm going to, an experienced guy to go along with Makari Page. Is he a linebacker? Is he a safety? I think he's a bit of a tweener, but now I think with the depth at linebacker kind of being filled out, I think you'll see him more as a safety. I agree. Will he see more snaps this year? I don't know. With Makari Page and obviously Rod Moore back there, we'll see. But he's a guy that's played, has experience, knows what he's doing. I think he's kind of an interesting guy for sure.
I think Chris Partridge coming back is a great thing for him because you could see him play a Viper type role, not literally, but with this defense that rotates, Partridge might be drooling. Like you're right. I think he's going to be more of a safety, but I think Partridge could do some fun things with him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now I'm going to go running back and I'm going to take Tavi Dunlap, a guy that's kind of been lost in the mix a little bit. I think this will be an important year for him. With obviously, we talk about the Blake Horns, you talk about the Donovan Edwards, where does Tavier Dunlap fit in? With CJ Stokes also wanting to get the ball a lot more too. He's a guy that kind of, runs with that physical, style of run, but can also break some. He just needs an opportunity. And, maybe, does he get it this year? I don't know. But, I think he definitely factors into the future for sure. Whether he wants to stick around for that future is kind of remains to be seen. But, in this scenario, I think Tavi Dunlap will definitely be able to carry the offense, so to speak.
If you're buying Dunlap, are you selling Khalil Mullings?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I am selling Khalil Mullings for sure.
I'll be interested to see if he's at running back all off season and they don't have to do the weird deal going back and forth with linebacker. But yeah, he wasn't unbelievable in his reps that he had last year, right? So yeah, Dunlap's. I actually like that pick. I think people are sleeping on him. He's a guy that could surprise people. I like that. But yeah, no Cole Cabana and no Mullings. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna go. I've only got 3 spots left, and I'm gonna try and pick some relative order of who I think's best available. So actually, I'm gonna go over to defensive tackle because they're loaded here, and I'm gonna go Rayshon Benny.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
If Jenkins didn't come back, I keep saying that like these dudes came back, and had they not, I think Michigan would have felt just fine with having Rayshon Benny. He's going to play a lot this year. Nobody's going to stay on the field as much as Mozzie Smith did last year, right?
Yeah.
So the 4 guys we've got up there are going to rotate. I like him alongside the big boy Jenkins. This could be a big year for him. He kind of got overshadowed last year a little bit by Graham as well, but he's a solid player. And then for my other offensive line spot, you really messed up my plan. I should have gone Gentry. I forgot you could play him at guard, but I'm gonna go Miles Hinton. At right tackle. He's somebody that could compete for that starting spot. He obviously started at Stanford for 2 years. He's a Hinton related to Chris, so he already knows this culture. He's gonna fit in right away. He's been dinged up a little bit this spring, or coming off of a off-season injury as well. So come summer or fall, it's going to be really interesting to see how this starting lineup shakes out. But if I get a guy who has starting experience at right tackle, I'm fine with that. You got 2 wide receivers, buddy. Have at it. Who are you taking?
All right. So my next pick is going to be Samaj Morgan at wide receiver. A guy that, that Michigan loves. I mean, the players love him. He's been playing, from all accounts, playing very well during the spring. So that's only going to bode well for him in the future. A guy in high school that just didn't drop anything. Super athletic guy, can jump through the roof. He's got crazy athleticism. I think he's going to be a really good player for Michigan in time. And my last pick here, I'm going to do it for the lulz. For my guy Ben. This one is for him. Our guy Ben on the boards. I'm picking Peyton O'Leary.
Oh God. Yes. You needed the backup X wide receiver. That's a great pick.
Yeah. Peyton O'Leary, a guy that was getting some attention in last fall. Ronnie Bell called him out and said he was having a great fall. I heard personally he was one of the guys that were singled out. Peyton O'Leary was having a great fall. Again, didn't translate to the field, but he's kind of a running gag on our message boards. Nothing against the kid, of course.
Yeah.
But this is a guy. You could use him in a pinch. But it was between him or Fred Moore. And, I went for the lulz here, and I went for Peyton O'Leary.
It is funny just because, like you said, it's kind of become a gag. But in all seriousness, this is a really cool kid, right? Somebody who could have gone and played lacrosse, took the walk-on path with football, comes from a football athletic family. If they needed him in a pinch, I do think he would do really well. He's going to be one of those Michigan stories that Jim Harbaugh absolutely loves. I don't know if it'll be this year or next, but he's going to make a big play at some point. And in his entire journey, that dude's pure Michigan story for Jim Harbaugh, right? So do we address the obvious snub right out the gate here? No AJ Henning.
Yeah, I see him.
I don't think you're wrong.
I just think I see him more just pigeonholed into a specialist type of guy.
Yeah.
If you were to have like a kick punt return spot on this board, I'd 100% pick AJ Henning. But it's not his fault that he's been pigeonholed into that way. That's just the way his career has developed at Michigan. And I think, it's unfortunate for him, but yeah, I kind of see him as more of a specialist kind of guy than
I think he's one of the few. He's one of the few like speed and space recruits that kind of got lost in the mix, right? Because I do like the idea of the Deebo Samuel role, but on an end around, what can he do that Roman Wilson can't, or even Cornelius, right? And then the idea of utilizing him in a running back type role. Are you taking away carries from Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, potentially CJ Stokes to give them to Henning? Maybe as a gadget. but as a serious all the time role, I'm with you. I don't see it. And it's unfortunate because it has nothing to do with his talent. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of the way things have shaked out here. So, all right. Last pick. I've got to go with center. I've got 2 guys I could go with here, but I'm going to go with the guy I was more impressed with, I think, Raheem Anderson last year, but I'm going Greg Crippen right now. I think he's really taking advantage of Drake Nugent being limited. We saw him getting a lot of first team snaps. I don't know if he's going to beat out Drake Nugent at the end of the day, but he's a dude that could have bailed as soon as Nugent came in. And instead, again, he's absolutely embraced the competition. And if Michigan's got to go with a backup, I think they're going to feel confident with Greg Crippen. So he will be our Mr. Irrelevant. I don't know where I'm going here. Do I even have him on here? There he is. Our last pick. So
many guys.
What's that?
It's so many guys.
Yeah. And
huge.
This is a talented team, man. Like we didn't have to reach for dudes. I think we both made some, I don't know, reach picks, but like our own little gutsy sleeper picks here. But this is a loaded roster. So I don't know, man. Gut instinct. You're looking at your team here. What's your strength? Do you think you got me beat?
I think my strength obviously is the defensive line. I think that you look at that defensive line and you think, wow, that's like one of the best in the country. Like just from like a talent standpoint, you're like, wow, that is just filled with so many dudes. As this thing developed, I was really worried about the offensive line, but I really like how it turned out. I think it's really well-rounded. I'm not a huge fan of how my offense turned out outside of maybe Colson Loveland. I think I could have gone a little, earlier with the wide receiver. But again, this isn't, taking away from any players or anything like that. It's just from a roster building standpoint, I probably could have gotten some length at wide receiver. But I really like this team. I really like this team a lot. I think it's really well balanced and, not exactly top heavy either.
I think what I like is this perfectly illustrates just how deep this team is. Cause you're right. Your defensive line is filthy and I still have a really good defensive line.
Yeah, no,
like, I've got Braden McGregor, Chris Jacobs, Derek Moore, and Rayshawn Benny. So your strength, you're loaded, but I'm not hurting at all. And the same thing with the offensive line. You're right. I really like the way my offensive line shook out. I've got Zinter and El Hadi at guard. I like that. I like Barnhart at left tackle. So there's just plenty of dudes to go around when it comes down to the offensive and defensive line, right? So you waiting on wide receivers was my opportunity to pick up on them. So I do like my strength there. I took the risk with Orgy just because I like what he brings from a running standpoint. I feel good about the receivers I have. And then again, just illustrating the strength of this Michigan defense. We have question marks about who's going to be CB2 and who some of these depth guys are going to be, but I like my secondary a lot with Johnson, Bohr, Zaner still, McBurrows, and there's nothing wrong with the secondary you've got. Taking some shots on some freshmen, but what a perfect illustration of how loaded this team is. So obviously, if you guys are watching live, hit in the comments what you think, who wins. We'll probably put a poll up on Twitter or something, share this as well. But other than that, Josh, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, this is good. This was good.
The real spring game is obviously Saturday. We will have all of the coverage of that. We're going to try and hit up the pep rally as well that Valiant is putting on. But yeah, make sure you're following us at michigan.rivals.com on Saturday. If you're not subscribed already, now's the time. You've got basketball transfer portal and recruiting. You've got football recruiting at an all-time high. Spring practice is wrapping up. Hockey's in the Frozen Four. Baseball season's going to pick up in the summer. So, and we've got all of that covered. Yep. We don't just cover one sport. Michigan athletics, comprehensive, women's basketball, you name it, we cover it all. So now's the time to join. Other than that, thank you for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. We go live every day with Dennis's afternoon live show. We have podcasts that we go live with similar to this and Intel shows. So just make sure you're following, subscribing. And other than that, thanks for joining. And Josh, had a lot of fun, man. You have a good night. And obviously we will talk to you all soon. Thanks.